Chosen one, are your bags packed? Do you feel it? That quiet pressure in the air, that restlessness you can't explain, that sense that something invisible is rearranging itself around you? This is not imagination. This is transition. A door is closing behind you, permanently, and ahead, a new dimension is opening that you were never meant to access as the old version of yourself. You are not going back. Not to the season where survival was your only language. Not to the version of you that mistook endurance for destiny. Not to the chapter where you questioned your value because others failed to recognize it. Every tear was counted. Not metaphorically, precisely. Every night you lay awake bargaining with your thoughts. Every moment you smiled through disappointment. Every time you were ignored, dismissed, underestimated, replaced, or forgotten. Nothing vanished into silence. It went into record. The audit is complete, and now the balance is due. This is not encouragement designed to fight by morning. This is alignment. This is the moment preparation meets permission. You are minutes away from carrying yourself differently, not louder, not harder, not more aggressive, but steadier. Like someone who finally understands that their presence is not negotiable, that their worth is not up for debate, that access to them is a privilege, not a right, not revenge, because revenge still chains you to the past. This is something rarer. Completion. Closure. The kind of power that arrives when you stop trying to win at tables that were rigged from the beginning. You are about to stand up, not in anger, not in explanation, not in dramatic exits, but in certainty. And that quiet decision will end more battles than confrontation ever could. What they couldn't break, they tried to delay. What they couldn't control, they tried to confuse. What they couldn't diminish, they tried to distract. And still, you're here. Still breathing, still thinking, still hoping, even when hope felt irresponsible. That is not accident. That is qualification. The shift you feel is not external first. It begins inside. A belief loosens. A boundary forms. A tolerance expires. A decision finalizes. And suddenly, without fireworks, without witnesses, without announcements, you are no longer available for the life that once defined you. Not because you escaped it, because you outgrew it. And once that happens, there is no returning to the old version of yourself again. The chaos you survived was not punishment. It was training. Every storm carried instruction inside it. Every breakdown contained a blueprint. Every night you thought you were losing yourself, you were actually being rewritten. Every betrayal sharpened your discernment, not to make you bitter, but precise. Every loss taught you what was never yours to begin with. Every lonely season forced you to meet yourself without distractions, without masks, without borrowed strength. And in that solitude, you learned something rare: how to stand whole without leaning on anyone else's approval, presence, or permission. You were not being broken. You were being reinforced, because the version of you from years ago could not have survived the weight of what is approaching now. They would have trusted too quickly, explained too much, opened doors that should have remained sealed, handed sacred access to untrained hands, destroyed blessings they were not yet disciplined enough to protect. So life delayed you, not to deny you, to fortify you. Every closed door bought you time to mature. Every delay added layers of discernment. Every disappointment stripped illusions that would have sabotaged your future. What felt like rejection was actually insulation. You have been under review, not judgment, evaluation. They were never counting perfection. They were measuring posture under pressure. Kindness when cruelty would have earned applause. Silence when chaos offered entertainment. Integrity when shortcuts promised faster results. Faith when evidence suggested surrender. They observed how you handled obscurity, how you treated people who could do nothing for you, how you spoke when no audience was present, how you chose when no one would ever know. And the results came back approved, cleared, aligned, ready. Here is where the miscalculation happened. The people who smiled while whispering, who praised you publicly and undermined you privately, who promised loyalty while rehearsing betrayal, who fed you crumbs to keep you hopeful, invested, compliant. They studied you. They learned your empathy, your guilt reflex, your savior instinct, your tendency to give second chances when first ones were already undeserved. They mistook your kindness for weakness, your patience for permission, your silence for ignorance. They assumed you would never see the pattern. But here is what they never understood. Every interaction was also training. Every manipulation taught you pattern recognition. Every disappointment upgraded your perception. You were not just surviving. You were learning the architecture of deception. And now you see clearly. You see who gives from overflow and who gives to control, who supports your growth and who only tolerates it while it benefits them. Who loves you and who only loves access to you. The game did not end because you confronted them. It ended because you outgrew them. And when awareness arrives, power follows. They prepared for your breakdown. They did not prepare for your awakening. They needed you more than you ever needed them. They rarely admitted it, sometimes not even to themselves. But your presence stabilized systems that would have collapsed without you. Your insight kept projects alive. Your emotional labor kept relationships functioning. Your patience absorbed chaos that would have destroyed less resilient people. You were the quiet infrastructure, holding fragile structures upright, and they built their comfort on your capacity. Your absence will be the earthquake, not confrontation, not exposure, not revenge, withdrawal. Because when the foundation leaves, the building does not argue, it falls. Your energy was their oxygen, your attention, their currency, your availability, their advantage. When you step away, they don't just miss you, they destabilize. And now, the access is revoked, not by force, by awareness. You are being hidden, encrypted, shielded. Information that once flowed freely from you now stops at the gate. Plans that once leaked now remain sealed. Emotions that once broadcast now move in silence. The people who once read you easily are suddenly disoriented. The ones who predicted your reactions can no longer provoke them. The manipulators reach for old buttons and find them disconnected. The spies listen and receive only static. They cannot track what they no longer have permission to see. This is why you crave privacy now, not secrecy born of fear, privacy born of clarity. You speak less because not everyone deserves context. You post less because not everyone deserves access. You explain nothing because your life is no longer a public negotiation. Silence is no longer weakness. It is placement. It is discernment. It is protection. It is power that does not announce itself. The loud explain. The strong move quietly. And that voice telling you you're not qualified. That voice did not originate in you. It was installed, planted by people, threatened by your potential, reinforced by systems that profit from your hesitation, echoed by environments where shrinking was safer than shining. If you were truly unqualified, no one would have monitored you this closely. If you were insignificant, no one would have tried this hard to contain you. If you were ordinary, no one would have invested this much energy in limiting your expansion. The doubt was never evidence of inadequacy. It was evidence of importance, because only assignments of consequence attract this level of interference. Consider the pattern. They questioned you while copying you. They dismissed you while studying you. They doubted you publicly while fearing you privately. They knew what you carried long before you did. That imposter narrative ends here. Not because you suddenly became perfect, because you finally recognized the truth. You were never underqualified. You were underactivated, and now the activation is complete. The encryption holds. The access stays closed. The signal is clean. From this point forward, not everyone will understand you, but no one will ever control you again. Installed, programmed, planted by people who needed you small. That doubt was engineered. Through criticism, dressed as guidance, conditioning disguised as care, repetition meant to shrink your confidence until obedience felt safer than expansion. If you were insignificant, no one would have worked this hard to contain you. They don't send armies after nobodies. They don't organize resistance against nothing. They don't sabotage what carries no threat. The opposition proved the assignment, and now the doormat era is over. Compliance no longer passes for kindness. Silence no longer substitutes for peace. Self-erasure no longer masquerades as humility. Boundaries replaced compliance. Awareness replaced apology. Power replaced pleasing. You no longer negotiate your dignity. You no longer shrink to protect others' comfort, not because you hardened, because you healed. And healed people do not ask for permission to exist. They stand, they choose, they protect what is sacred. Anyone who preferred you powerless will now have to learn how to meet you sovereign. Those who preferred you powerless will complain now. Of course they will. Your growth disrupted an arrangement that once benefited them. Your boundaries dismantled systems that relied on your silence. Your clarity threatened roles they were comfortable assigning you. When control disappears, it always masquerades as concern. When access is revoked, it often disguises itself as disappointment. Let them complain. Their discomfort is confession. Every objection reveals what they lost. Every criticism exposes what they can no longer control. Every remark betrays the version of you they preferred. Smaller, quieter, easier to manage. They are not reacting to your attitude. They are reacting to your autonomy. And soon comes the walk-back moment. Not theatrical, not announced. Inevitable. The rooms that once dismissed you will feel smaller when you return. The doors that ignored you will open too late to matter. The people who doubted will suddenly remember your potential and pretend they always believed. You will pass them wearing your elevation quietly. No speeches, no explanations, no triumph displays. Just presence, not revenge. Because revenge still looks backward. This is revelation, revealing to yourself what rejection was actually doing for you. Revealing how closed doors redirected your steps toward better corridors. Revealing that delay was alignment in disguise. Your rejection was not denial, it was navigation. What refused you was never your destination. Now the current shifts. Money begins to move differently, not because you chased harder, not because you suffered longer, not because you proved yourself endlessly, because the alignment changed. Leaks closed. Blocks removed. Patterns upgraded. You are no longer working against yourself. You are no longer partnered with doubt. You are no longer loyal to ceilings installed by fear. Resources start recognizing you. Opportunities locate you without exhaustion. Provision arrives without punishment. Exchange becomes fair. Not hustle, alignment. Because hustle exhausts. Alignment attracts. And when alignment governs wealth, it does not come to rescue you. It comes to equip you, to expand your reach, to stabilize your future, to position you as the one who no longer asks, but decides. The walk back will happen more than once, in careers, in relationships, in spaces that once overlooked you. Each time it happens, something dissolves. Doubt weakens. Confidence settles. Identity solidifies. By the end of these moments, you will no longer need validation from anyone who once misjudged you, because the only witness you'll require is yourself, and you will know, without question, nothing they rejected was ever meant to stay. Everything that redirected you was carrying you home. Blocks removed, ceilings demolished, receiving activated. The resistance you once felt around abundance is surfacing now, not to stop you, but to teach you the final lesson. You were trained to survive, not to receive, to give, not to hold, to earn, not to allow. Somewhere along the way, sacrifice became familiar and overflow felt suspicious. This is where the last adjustment happens. Practice accepting without guilt, without explaining, without immediately offering something back to justify it. Practice holding without apology. Let your hands stay open long enough to feel the weight of what arrives. Let your life expand without shrinking yourself to make others comfortable. Practice receiving without shrinking, because abundance does not come to flatter you. It comes to stretch you, and now, your tribe is activating, not crowds, alignment, people who recognize your frequency before your resume, who protect your peace without being asked, who sharpen your destiny instead of competing with it. You will notice how easy it feels. Conversation flows without effort. Trust forms without strategy. Understanding arrives without translation. No more explaining your depth. No more simplifying your vision. No more shrinking your vocabulary so others can follow. For the first time, you are met where you are. This is not coincidence. This is timing. Preparation is becoming manifestation, not through spectacle, through accumulation. Small decisions built this bridge, quiet boundaries, private discipline, unseen sacrifices, daily integrity. Invisible consistency created visible destiny. What others call sudden is simply overdue. The harvest is here. Not just financially, emotionally, relationally, spiritually. You begin to collect the returns on courage you forgot you invested, on boundaries you enforced in silence, on nights you chose growth instead of comfort, and now the shift, not dramatic, precise. A thought changes, a tolerance ends, a standard rises, a door opens. Nothing explodes. Everything aligns. You will not feel lightning. You will feel clarity, the kind that settles into your spine and changes how you stand, how you decide, how you move. This is not transformation. This is calibration. Your life is being tuned to the frequency of what you are now capable of holding. And from this moment forward, what finds you will finally match who you have become. A belief changes, quietly, internally, almost without ceremony. A boundary forms where tolerance once lived. A decision finalizes where hesitation used to linger. And suddenly, game over, not with noise, not with confrontation, with clarity. Game over for the cycles that kept repeating, because you kept hoping. Game over for the patterns that survived only because you kept forgiving. Game over for the manipulation that worked only when you doubted yourself. Game over for the roles you played just to belong. You are done performing in stories written for someone smaller. No more shrinking to be accepted. No more bending to be chosen. No more betraying yourself to preserve connection. You walk now with awareness, not arrogance, certainty. The kind of certainty that doesn't argue, doesn't prove, doesn't announce. It simply stands. That calm in your chest, that stillness that arrived without explanation. That is peace without conditions, and not peace because everything is resolved. Peace because something inside you finally knows you will survive whatever remains unresolved. Not because life is perfect, because you are prepared. You no longer fear endings. You understand transitions. So now, pack light. Not everything belongs in the next season. Some relationships expired quietly while you were growing. Some beliefs served you once but now limit you. Some habits protected you in danger but imprison you in safety. Thank them. Release them. What comes with you is not heavy. Your intuition, finally trusted. Your standards, finally enforced. Your peace, finally protected. Your creativity, finally unmuted. Your power, finally claimed. The world forgot who you were. Because you forgot first. You dimmed to survive. You softened to belong. You edited yourself to fit rooms that were never designed to hold your frequency. You lowered your voice so fragile egos could remain comfortable. You minimized your vision so insecure minds would not feel threatened. You shrank your light so smaller rooms would not feel exposed. Those days are done, not out of anger, out of accuracy. The next season does not operate by the old rules. No more one-sided loyalty. No more unpaid emotional labor. No more excellence without recognition. This season runs on different laws: reciprocity, recognition, return. What you give now comes back multiplied. What you sow now finally grows in visible ways. What you deserve now arrives without warfare. And that voice that whispers, "This won't last," that is not intuition. That is trauma remembering a world that no longer exists. A ghost from a life built on instability, scarcity, and constant defense. You are not there anymore. You are safe now. Safe to trust without abandoning discernment. Safe to receive without preparing for loss. Safe to rise without waiting for permission. You do not have to brace for collapse. You can rest inside expansion. The train is moving, not steel and tracks. Consciousness and timing, a dimensional shift from survival to sovereignty, where you no longer ask for space, you claim it, from endurance to embodiment, where you stop proving strength and start living it, from waiting to becoming, where destiny no longer delays for readiness. Game over for everyone who misused your heart, for everyone who underestimated your silence, for everyone who confused your patience with weakness. Game beginning for the life you prayed for in private, for the version of you you almost stopped believing in, for the future that waited until you were strong enough to protect it. The world is about to remember who you are, not because you demanded recognition, because your presence will make it impossible to forget. And the reason this works now, the reason the shift holds, is simple. You finally remembered first. And now you understand. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was random. Nothing delayed you by accident. Every ending positioned you. Every loss aligned you. Every silence trained you. This is not a comeback. This is a return to who you were before the world taught you to forget. Walk gently. Walk clearly. Walk sovereign. Because the season ahead does not test you. It confirms you. And if this message spoke to your spirit, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Stay connected. More confirmations are coming. Because the only question left is this: are you ready to live as the person you've already become?